This is how we set up an electronic probe in the software. Now you can get it to this point in two ways. One would be at the end of having set up a block. When you get right to the probes, you identified this as being an electronic probe, and it'll say complete the block setups, proceed to probe setup. Now you'll note that that probe setup is exactly the menu that you would find here under soil moisture probe setup. So let's click on that and we will slide right over to the screen. I would have come to the same point had I gone to soil moisture and clicked on probe setup. And this is what the screen looks like. And on the screen we want to identify the type of probe and telemetry, so we have a whole series of things already set up. For instance, this could be an aqua check pushing through an aqua wave. For instance, we would identify that as the probe and the telemetry. We tell it the block that we have this in, and here is our newly created block BBB. Put that in there, and the only thing remaining is to identify the device code, which is the number on the telemetry unit. Secondary code will be used for other purposes, and we'll look at that later. Resolution, if you want the raw data, maybe half-hour data to come in, we'll leave that at 0. If you put a 2 in there, it'll take all the readings that arrive within a 2-hour span and take the average of that. If your product does not produce a timestamp at local time, you would put a timestamp in here. For instance, it could be, if it is GMT, we're in Western US, that would be -6, for instance. But if it's local time, that number remains 0. The data that is there will be loaded from a certain point. This date here defaults to today's date, so it's important that you change that. If you know that you've planned at this unit on the 9th of the month and you'd like to start getting data from that point, but not anything older while you were testing it, then this would be the appropriate date. Displacement is a number you would use if you have a probe that you could not plant all the way. Then you could also have a rain gauge associated with this. So a rain gauge can be used or either not used at all, or if you say I'm using this as a rain gauge, it means the same data will go not only to this block but to all the blocks or all the sites on this property. If you have this, for instance, under a pivot, you want to use it as an irrigation gauge, really, even though it is a rain gauge. You would indicate it as such, and then that information would go to this block only. And in here you could put anything that you want to remember, such as the probe ID, SIM card number, whatever else. And again, remember to click the add button, and that would save our probe completely set up amongst the rest of them. And it'll take us back to the list of all the probes that we have already set up. And the one we just worked on was on the block BBB, the probe and telemetry type, the ID, and right now it has no data. And then we will look into detail of what we're going to do about getting data, calibrating it, and so on.